Today we're going to try doing some resist on some paper that will take some water, because the contrast that I'm going to use is watercolor. If you were using some other type of contrast besides watercolor, you wouldn't need paper that would take so much water. And the item that I'm going to use to make the resist is a Crayola crayon, just a regular waxy Crayola crayon, and some things that I had around that will make a circular shape. So I'm basing this on a stamp that I have from Simon Says Stamp called Round and Round Background, which I like and use a lot. And I'm just going to take the paper, and for this particular sample I'm using Bristol. I had some cut that was this size. And I'm going to use a Crayola crayon, a gel crayon, and some Prismacolor pencils in colors so that you can actually see it on the screen. Because a white crayon on a white piece of paper does not show up well on the screen. So here I'm just using some other colors so you can see this happening. I'm just tracing the circular items to make a few circles in my background. And this gel crayon I'm using is a kind of a generic brand, but these are similar to other gel crayons like Distress crayons or gel crayon. I think Dina Wakley has a version. There are a bunch of brands of gel crayons. But anything that has got a waxy texture is going to be good for resist. The real concept behind resist is that you want the resist and the color to be two different mediums. So this waxy pencil or waxy crayon or waxy gel crayon is going to resist a water color. Anytime that you're using a stamping ink and a background color that are the same medium, they'll dissolve one another. So if you use dye ink and then you watercolor over it, the dye ink will dissolve in the watercolor. If you use a Sharpie pen on some Yupo paper and then you use alcohol ink, the alcohol ink will dissolve the Sharpie. So the idea with resist is to use two contrasting mediums. So here I've sped it up quite a bit because I don't think there could be anything less interesting than watching someone draw circles with a white crayon on a white background. It just, you can't see it on screen at all, but that's all I'm doing. Just to make that circular pattern onto my water friendly backgrounds. So once I've got the circles drawn onto the backgrounds, I'm going to apply some color. Now I'm starting out here with our Bristol example with some ink blending, because Bristol is not really good for watercolor, but I'm really bad at ink blending, as you can see as I try this, and I'm not really getting a smooth background and I'm not getting enough contrast to really highlight the resist. So I'm going to switch over to watercolor to try to get a smoother background and to try to get some more contrast with the resist items. The real magic of resist comes when you have distinctly different resist and background colors. So I think that's why the white crayon on white paper with a dark background color is a good choice, because that stark white, it looks like magic. It looks like you've highlighted your paper in some magical way, and then when you apply your background color, it really stands out. So you can see that the dark green here really makes that resist in yellow and light orange stand out much better than a lighter green. So it does stand out quite nicely here. I don't think this is a great background. I will try to save it for some purpose, but well, there you go. That's what it looks like. It does resist. So I'm going to switch now to my white circles on my water-friendly paper, and I've used several different types of water-friendly paper. They all worked pretty well. I was surprised how well this no-name mixed media paper worked. It held up to the water quite nicely. I am using quite a wet medium there. I mean, it's literally watercolor. There's a lot of water involved, and it held up great. So, well, yay for the win. The watercolor that I'm using is some Stampin' Up! Re-inkers, just diluted with some water. And you can see those white circles stand out quite nicely. So this no-name mixed media paper was great. I went on from there to the next water-friendly paper, which is the Dylusions mixed media, which is from Ranger. This was also very nice. I was a little concerned when I started that the off-white color of the Dylusions paper would make this work not quite so well. But after I applied my background color, you couldn't tell that the original paper color was beige. So I'm going on then to some Ranger Tim Holtz Heavystock. This is not exactly meant to work with water. It's not sized in quite the same way as watercolor paper. And you can see a little bit how the water is sinking into the paper in a way that it would not in watercolor. And I'll highlight that more in a second. And then the next one is some Vicky Bouton mixed media paper from American Crafts. I had not used this before. I bought this pad of paper late last year and I hadn't used it for anything. But this paper is really nice. It really stands up well to the water. I did mop up some of the little puddles that were forming just because I was having a lake there on my desk. And where the purple and orange were touching, I was getting some mud. Now you can see the areas on the Heavystock where that water has just sunk into the paper in a way that is not attractive. But it still worked. And this is the final outcome. You can see that white resist looks great. Visit me at papercraftcrystal.com. Thanks.